Thank you very much. I want to apologize in advance if what I say doesn't necessarily make an abundance of sense tonight. I have a 5-month-old child at home who has taken a reasonably philosophical attitude to sleeping. I don't want to, because we've talked a lot about ageism tonight, we've talked a lot about generalizations. I don't want to make a generalization, but have you fucking people met a baby? When you get it, you think a baby's going to be just a normal, a little person, but small. When you get a baby from a hospital, it's nothing like that. It's like, imagine someone handed you a pig and said, if that dies, you go to jail. That's the first 2 months of parenting. And then something happens. 2 months, 3 months, something happens where there is a point at which your child smiles at you or laughs at you or they look like their mum. They give a face that you've seen before and you go, that's what your mum does when she thinks I've done something stupid. And all of a sudden something clicks into place. You realize that choice that people have made for millennia to sort of kick the can of humanity down the road is a good one. Despite a lot of evidence to the contrary, by the way. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you about tonight, because when I think about idolizing youth, I don't think about Instagram and I don't think about a lot of the stuff that Fred said. That counts as my rebuttal, by the way. I think about that idea that what is coming after us can be better than what we have now. That's what I think when I think about idolizing youth. And we've sort of talked about defining youth one way or the other, and that's how I see it. Nay talked to you about what it's like for youth today, in a specific sense with some disadvantaged youth, and in a general sense with just what the youth is inheriting. And I think it's actually incredible to see any young person out there doing anything remotely good with the sort of shit sandwich we've served up to them. We had a little while ago these amazing teenagers protesting climate change, which I'll come to later, and they were mocked, not just by politicians, but by parts of the media. They were derided. There were inches and inches, feet of opinion columns about these upstart children. And I find them inspiring, I find them incredible. What did Fred say? Where are people who are with respect, integrity, and discipline? I mean, you can't go past these kids. In fact, I was looking up some stuff before I came here. This hall, this incredible building, this work of art was built by a 21-year-old woman with no formal training. Now that's unlikely to be true because I made it up, but I'm last. So, it's incredible. I do think that idolizing youth is something beautiful and necessary. I do think that idolizing youth is the best hope we have to be around in a couple of millennia. I don't think when we talk about idolizing youth, we're actually talking about idolizing a specific young person. I think we're talking about idolizing the future of the human race. So that's the good news. What happens, though, if we don't? What happens if we stop idolizing youth? And this is the bad news, right? And I'm sorry, Nate did touch on this, but I'm going to repeat it. The world is ending, right? And that's not figurative. The people who go to school, who we pay to tell us when the world is ending, have been telling us that the world is ending. And I worry about that because I don't actually think that we as humans have the ability to comprehend what that means, that the world is ending. People got really upset that Game of Thrones was ending. They understand that that's part of the world, right? Everything you like is part of the world. Lunch, that's part of the world. Franking credits, that's part of the world. If it sounds like I'm laboring the point, maybe I am, but it does seem like it's not getting through to some people. I don't know if you saw this in the newspapers, but we had an election recently. And it looked like this was going to be a referendum on climate change. It looked like this was going to be a referendum on a government that for 6 or 7 years had responses to climate change varying from, we'll plant a couple of trees, all the way to fuck it. And it seemed, right, like people were finally, of all ages and creeds and stripes, were going to say enough is enough. And Labor had a modest proposal for how to deal with this, and it looked like that was going to be that. And I don't want to offer any spoilers for people who maybe aren't up to that yet, but the Conservatives won. And partly, well, not partly, I mean, like a lot of the analysis since has pointed to a scare campaign about franking credits. Now, I'm not here to say that franking credits affect any demographic more than any other. But I am saying that what we saw on election night of this year was a selfish nation. And I do mean this when I say it. I do mean this when I say that I don't think selfishness is a trait of the elderly. I don't think that. But I do think it is a worldview that requires us to not idolize youth. I think it's a worldview that requires us to look in and not out. I think it's a worldview that requires, best summed up in the Latin, fuck you, I've got mine. It's a beautiful language. And I'm telling you this in all seriousness, if we can't move past this, we are hosed. We are stuffed. We are fucked if we can't look beyond our own self-interest. I saw somebody in The Australian who was upset about franking credits. This is true, who was worried that they couldn't go on a cruise because they wanted to see the Galapagos Islands before they disappeared. It's not about any particular set of age groups, but if we can't look beyond ourselves, if we can't look back to people like my kid and go, this is bigger than me, this is the continuation of the human race. If we're not able to do that, and we can't do that by liking the youth, we can't do that by tolerating the youth, we can't do that by putting up with the youth, by letting them talk a little bit. We have to do that by going full bore idolizing the youth. Sure, yeah. And as Nay says, if we're not doing that yet, we'd better start now. Thank you.